welcome to our webinar this evening, Script Supervising with Margaret Graham. I'm Amy Shaw, I'm co-manager of BECTU Vision. BECTU is the Broadcasting, Entertainment, Communications and Theatre Union, and we support film and TV practitioners across the UK. BECTU Vision is the Scotland-based training arm of BECTU the Union. We deliver a variety of training courses to support freelance practitioners in Scotland. We do work for new entrants coming into film and TV. We also support existing practitioners who are stepping up from supervisor to head of department or assistant to supervisor. And we run a producer development programme as well, which supports producers becoming the TV producers of the future. Alongside that, we do a variety of short courses focusing on specialist skills and freelancer skills. And all the work that we do focuses on making the film and TV industry fairer, safer and greener. I'm delighted to run this session tonight to do a deep dive into the world of script supervising and the role of the script supervisor on film and TV productions. We do have closed captions this evening, so if you would like to use those, you should be able to see that they are at the bottom of the screen and you can enable them. The Q&A is also open, so please do feel free to put in any questions that you have for Margaret or myself. I'm delighted that Sarah Mundell, our BECTU Vision Coordinator, is behind the scenes tonight supporting us and monitoring those questions as they come in. This webinar is being run alongside the recruitment that we've just opened for our brand new Script Supervisor traineeships. The recruitment is open at the moment, so applications are open. I'll be chatting a little bit more about that later on, but I'd like to introduce our guest speaker for this evening, Margaret Graham. Hi, Margaret.
Hello everybody.
Lovely to see you. Thank you so much for joining us.
You're welcome.
So to start us off, I was wondering if you could tell us a little bit about how you got into the industry in your career.
Okay. I joined the BBC Scotland, and I actually started off working as an office assistant in the design department. It was an office-based job, but I got a chance to talk to the designers, assistant designers, see how sets were built, all sorts of things along that line. But it gave me a broad insight into how TV works. Out of that department into the drama department as a producer secretary. And this is true. A week after I started working for this producer, he announced that he was going to Australia on a 6-month sabbatical. So I was kind of just left to my own devices in this office. So again, I just took the opportunity to hang out on productions that were being made in the BBC, and kind of weird. Nobody ever asked where I was going or what I was doing. It was very, very relaxed atmosphere. But I think that's when I decided that script supervising was the thing for me. And when a job vacancy came up in the drama department, I applied for it and was very fortunate to get it. However, one of the first shows I worked on was actually a single film. The BBC supervisor who was on the job had to leave, and they needed somebody at short notice. So I flew down to London on the Thursday for an interview, and then I started the following Monday at Television Centre. And 3 weeks later, I was flying to Zurich business class on this film, and I thought, well, this is it. I have now made it. So we were in Switzerland. We were filming and staying in a beautiful hotel on Lake Lucerne. So yeah, so we got up. You got up, had breakfast, then you wandered into another room onto the film set, did some filming till lunchtime, and then maybe went for a swim in the lake at lunchtime. I mean, it was crazy times, but it was great. We then came back to London, where we filmed for another, I think it's a further 6 weeks. Knew what I was doing, to be perfectly honest, but you know, I just got on with it, nobody fired me, and yeah, and the show won loads of BAFTAs. So it was fantastic. So that's how I got started, and I was staff in the BBC. I think it was maybe for about 13 years in the drama department in Glasgow, and then I went freelance, and but I haven't really looked back. You know, I've worked in London again, Birmingham, Belfast, yeah, really all over the UK, and you know, I've been fortunate enough to film a few times in Europe. You know, as I said, in Switzerland, Germany, Belgium, somewhere else, Czech Republic, yeah. So I've had amazing opportunities as a script supervisor over the years. I've just finished filming a 3-part, now they call it an event drama. I don't know if you know what that is, Amy. An event drama is, yeah, I didn't know either. It's a 3-part drama, and it is scheduled to be shown over 2 nights next Easter. So it will probably be Easter Sunday and Monday. We'll show episodes 1 and 2, and then episode 3 will go out the following weekend. So that was filmed in and around Calendar and Crieff. We shot it over 8 weeks. And prior to that, this year, I worked on season 6 of Outlander, which was 8 episodes, which we shot over 5 months. And some of you may know we're based out in Cumbernauld, but we film again up Calendar Way. And if there's a field, we'll be in it as well. So that's what I've been doing most recently. It may be an idea if I just talked you through what is involved for the script supervisor during pre-production. I can't cover everything, but I'll just give you a snapshot of what the requirements are. So the first thing, obviously, is to read and time the script. I tend to read the script a couple of times before I start timing it. And then when I tend to do, well, I always do it at home. I'm here on my own with the script, with a stopwatch, and I read the script out loud. I read all the dialogue out loud. I try and time the stage directions, which can be a bit tricky, but it's my best guesstimate of how long I think each scene is. Now, obviously, it's important that for the producers to get script timings, because if the script's too long, it gives them an opportunity, or if it's too short, to get some more material written. You know, script, I don't think I've ever timed a script that was short, to be honest. I can't remember when the last time I did that. I don't think I have. Sometimes, you know, even if the script's long, they will just leave it as it is, because producers love to have as much material as they can so that they can have as many options as possible in the edit. So it puts pressure on us, the shooting crew, to shoot an episode which is over long within a certain amount of time, but we tend to get there. Now, if you're lucky, you might have a script editor attached to your production. And if you do, they will do story days, and they might always also do the timeline for you, which is like time of day for each scene. If you don't have a script editor on board, then it's down to the story days and time of day. It can be time consuming. The story days tend to be self-explanatory. You might have the odd scene, you think, oh, I wonder if this is the same, you know, I wonder if scene 20 is the same day as scene 19, or are we on to a different day? But obviously, if you're unsure, you obviously ask the producers and director if they have happen to be around. The first, usually, as I said, it's usually straightforward, but if I do have a query, actually the first person I would talk to is the first assistant director, because they will have done a draft shooting schedule and will have worked out their version of the story days for the schedule. I mean, the other thing to remember is that when you start your prep, which may be 1 or 2 weeks before you start filming, depending on the length of the first AD will have already been doing prep for 4 or 5 weeks. So they will have loads of information and knowledge that they can share with you. Because sometimes you feel that, oh, you're playing catch up all the time and everybody seems to know everything that's going on and you don't. But, well, of course they do, because they've been there for 4 or 5 weeks and they've been on the recce's, they've had the meetings, all the things that you've not been part of. So once I've timed the script and handed my timings into, I would do a breakdown of each scene, making continuity notes and costume, makeup, props. And, you know, I just make as many notes as possible in advance of shooting. If you find there are inconsistencies in the scripts, these should be flagged up to the script editor if you have one. If not, the script editor. I might mention it to the first AD and the director. And, you know, you might want to check with costume, for instance, you know, the script jacket in scene 10, but you know that from the script that several scenes later that jacket will have disappeared. So it's good to check with costume how they've plotted that and during which scene they are thinking that the jacket will go. And makeup, the script might say that the actor receives a wound on the forehead in scene 3. So it's helpful to learn from makeup. It will be, and by the end of the episode, which in story terms might be, I don't know, let's say 2 weeks on from scene 3, it's really important to find out what side of the forehead is that wound going to be on, because it has happened that the wound starts off on the right hand side of the forehead and then one day the actor turns up and it's on the other side. You're like, not quite sure that's right. So you know from the get-go what the plan is. That will help. Excuse me. So once I've done my breakdown, I'll check it with the first assistant director. I like to cross-check which cast are in every scene. Now, the first AD might know a certain character has been added to a scene, but it's not been reflected in the script. Alternatively, a character might have been cut from a scene, which again, at this stage hasn't been referenced in the script. So it was really good. Also, you know, it can happen that, you know, that a character might have been left off of the first assistant director's breakdown. So it's a double check for us that we've got the same people in every scene. And again, whilst doing this cross check, you know, the first assistant director will happily share information with you. Like, for instance, you know, scene 20, it won't be assistant director knows that scene 20 is going to be split into 5 parts, and it's going to be shot over 5 different days in 5 different locations. So that's really good for you to know in advance, because you know that you're going to be carrying all that continuity. The scene won't be shot in just one day, it'll be shot in 5 different days in 5 different locations. Another example is there might be a scene in the script which is scripted as night. However, and it might need to be shot as day. So it's good for you to know that in advance, because when you do send your breakdown out, you can highlight that that is now a day scene, even though, again, it's not reflected in the script. Hopefully, a bunch of script amendments will come out and all these discrepancies will be fixed, but at least you know in advance that this is what the plan is. I do a version of the breakdown for costume. They're keen to see the agreed story dates together with the timeline. That's important for them. I'll also do a more detailed breakdown for myself, which will have all sorts of notes for continuity. I tend to also write a lot of notes on my script, just little reminders of things, because with the best will, you're sitting in an office and you think, oh, I'll remember that. But on the day, very often you just don't remember because there's so much going on. So if you can write as much information down as possible on the day, just little aid memoirs. As a first assistant said to me, he said, well, Margaret, prep is a cheap part of shooting. And I know that sounds pretty obvious, but really what he meant was, prep is a time when we can all just do everything sorted out as much as you can. And I mean that across the board, because once you get out filming, if you've not prepped properly, it can cost a lot of money for the production, which is not a good thing. Towards the end of prep, I'll do a page count. So that is, you can get a ruler and break down the page into eighths of a page. Scenes are measured in eighths of a page. And that's useful for the producers to have. If episode 1 page count is an episode 2 count page is 65 pages, they can see that, there's a big discrepancy there. If once you're experienced, I can tend to look at a scene, and just by looking at it, I know, well, that's 6/8, that's 5/8, that's 1 1 4/8 pages. But to begin with, it, just do it slowly and go through the process. If you're using some digital software to later, it will do a breakdown for you. But I tend to just look at what they're saying this page count is, and I'll cross-check it with what I think it is. So some of you may have heard that on average, 1 script page equals 1 minute of screen time. Now, I think this was invented by writers, but it's really not the case. If a writer delivers a 60-page script, believe that the script is then on target, i.e. 60 minutes. However, it just doesn't work like that. A page of dialogue is very different from a page of stage directions. A page of dialogue, depending on, there may be long speeches, or if it's just quick fire dialogue between 2 actors, so big long speeches could be over a minute, or quick fire dialogue could just be 30 seconds. And a page of stage describing the battle and what happens could be 3 minutes. So I think that rule of thumb about 1 page equals 1 minute is not accurate in my experience. I would say if I'm given a 60-page scripted time, I would expect that script to come out at between 65 and 70 minutes. Again, all this comes with practice and continuing scripts and just getting into the groove of doing it. Now, during prep, you may well get script amendments. So obviously they need to be timed, and your revised timings given to the producers. Now, also during prep, we tend to have a production meeting. This is the one time when all the HODs come together and they're shown through in detail. It's a useful meeting for you to attend as a script supervisor, because it might be the first time you learn that there will be 2 or 3 cameras on particular days. You might learn which scenes are using doubles and stunt doubles. So all that is good information to have for you. There will also possibly, usually between a week and 2 to 3 days before shooting, would tend to be a read through. This is probably the only time the whole cast, if they're attending, will be together. Now I time the read through, but to be honest, it doesn't really give an accurate timing. The cast tend not to give a performance, and often every single stage direction can be read out, which kind of can elongate the script. But the producers like having the timing, and so that's what we do. Also during prep, you should make contact with the editor. You can ask them if they have a preferred slating system, the UK system or the American system. Let the editor know how you plan to get your notes to them. Are you going to be sending them paper notes, which you scan every night and send to them? Or if you're using digital software, then I imagine you'll be emailing the notes to them every night. The editor may want a time code log sent at lunchtime for the morning's work. This is easy to email if you're using digital software, excuse me, a bit more time consuming if you're handwriting all your time codes. Also, I would suggest having a chat with the production coordinator prior to shoot. Tell them how you will be delivering your editing notes, because they will require a copy. Show them your wrap report template so they know what to expect from you. And if you anticipate script amendments during the shoot, let the coordinator know in advance how you would like them. And would you like paper copies or just digital? It means that the coordinator knows in advance and they're not phoning you whilst you're shooting asking the question, because they're busy, you're busy, and obviously they want to get the script amendments to you as quickly as possible. I realise here that the one person I've not really mentioned during all this is the director. And it's mainly because you tend to find that during prep, the director is casting. They're out on recce's, they're meeting with producers, they're meeting with more producers, they may be doing rehearsals with the cast, and you end up having very little time with them. But you will get time, and we can go into, the relationship with the director later on during this. But yeah, it's interesting. I mean, you have a very full week or two doing your prep. It's just and keeping up with everything, and doing all your notes and trying to be as prepped as possible before you start shooting. So then we come to the shoot. That's the exciting bit. So you'll have received your call sheet. You know what scenes you're doing on day one. You'll also have received a movement order, which gives you directions of how to get to the unit base. Now, I believe if it's an 8 AM unit call, I think we should all be there by 7. Particularly nowadays, when you will probably have to go for a PCR or lateral flow test. All that has to be done in advance of you getting to set. And you also want to have breakfast. You also want to just check in with the ADs that there are no last minute changes, i.e. the schedule hasn't changed for the day. So yeah, I mean, there is a kind of saying that, if you turn, I think it's probably the case in most jobs, if you turn up in time, then you're late. You really, there is an expectation that you'll be there in good time to start the day. And also the unit base may be 2 or 3 miles from the actual set. So you need to have breakfast, check everything's going according to plan, get your PCR test, and then get yourself on a minibus to be driven to location. And all that actually will take an hour easily. I try and set get down to set maybe 15 minutes before unit call, so that would be 7:45. Generally, the director and first assistant are there already, maybe just finding the first spot for the camera, or they might just be talking about what they did the previous night. But it's quite a nice 15 minutes to kind of gather yourself together and be ready for the cast arriving. It also gives you an obligation to familiarise yourself with it. Make sure you know where the toilets are, because when you need to go, you need to go. So make sure you know where the toilets are, and obviously make sure you know where tea and coffee might be set up. Important. Excuse me. The cast will probably arrive at 8 o'clock or just after. Generally, the cast, the director, the first assistant, and myself will be on set. The cast will do a line run, i.e. just read the scene together, and if they've got any queries, they may bring them up then with the director. And nowadays you'll probably have a story producer on set, so they can ask them any questions. We then block the scene, choreograph the moves, and this is a good opportunity for you to make notes about the moves that the cast are making. And once the director and cast are happy with how the scene will play out, we have a crew show, so all the relevant departments come and watch so that they know what's going to happen. Cast will then disappear and go and get finished off in costume and makeup. At which point the director will discuss what generally the camera operator, if it's separate from the DOP, the lighting gaffer, boom op, and myself will all be there, and the director will discuss how they want to cover the scene, what shots they want to cover, and the first assistant can then work out the most efficient way of shooting the scene, i.e. one that's not going to, you don't want to be over the far end of the field for one shot, then back closer, then go back to the far end of the field. You want to do all the far end field shots to possible, because it just saves time. If during the rehearsals there have been any script changes which have been agreed, it's important that you let the sound department know what those script changes are, because your mixer, when you're shooting, will be listening out for the cue words, and if the cast aren't saying, if they've dropped the last sentence of a speech, for it, and then suddenly the other person starts speaking, so they may be late fading up the other person. It's really important to keep them informed of any script changes that you know of. So the cast are still away getting changed. Camera assistant, video assistant will set up the monitors. Nowadays, the director will have their own monitor. I've got my own monitor, just because of COVID, which is good. But you want to be you also want to be as close to the set as possible, so that you can feed lines in if required. And in between takes, if you need to go in and give a note, you're just on hand. You're not having to walk 500 yards to get to the set. Check the camera assistant, the card number. Check the sound mixer, the sound card that they're using, and you will have told the camera assistant what lighting system you're using, whether it's American or UK, and they'll put the details on the board. And cast return, you'll probably do one rehearsal on camera. Yeah, I mean, you would imagine that you'd rehearse it 2-3 times on camera, but there isn't time. So we've all got to be ready. Cast will turn up, costumes, makeup, one rehearsal on camera. They'll get final checks done, and then we'll turn over. To follow the dialogue, no any fluffs, missed lines. make notes of, the movement of the actors. What way did they turn? What hand was the cup in? Any cars moving? When did the car stop? Anything that happens in front of the camera is your job to note. It can be daunting at first. It is daunting. In fact, it is daunting at first. But the more experience you get, the more you'll get to know what's important for each shot and what doesn't matter. I mean, for instance, if say you do 3 takes of the wide shot and then take 3, the actor misses a line. Well, you've got it on take 2, and also you'll be covering that dialogue in closer shots. So as long as you let the director know and they're happy to move on, you wouldn't necessarily go for another take. In advance, I would check with the director how they want you to give notes. Some directors are happy with script notes, continuity notes directly to the actors. Some directors like to do it themselves. I think it helps them develop a relationship with the actors. So whichever way the director wants to work. Anything that I'm concerned about, I will run by the director, and it's up to them whether they think it's important enough to do another take or not. Costume, makeup, art department, they'll come and went wrong for them during a take. So again, you can run that by the director. The hair might have come down at the end of the take, but the director will know that it won't be on that shot at that point, so it doesn't matter. And so you may do several takes of each shot, and the director hopefully will tell you which take they liked, and you can circle that on editor and also let the editor know what went wrong in each take. But remember, they're sitting in a cutting room, they're just seeing the pictures in front of them, so any information you can give them, it went wrong, the sun was in, the sun was out, the jacket should have been open but it wasn't. All these things are really invaluable to the editor because they know that, right, they may need to cut around certain things. If the director's done a short list for the scene, not many directors do, I tend to mark them off as we go along. They won't stick to the short list, it's more their wish list than their short list, but it's useful to see how they're hoping to cover the scene. But often you can amalgamate 2 shots in one, and obviously if you've got 2 cameras shooting, you can pick off the shots more readily. At the end of each shot, I would go to focus puller, the camera details. I would ask for the lens, the T-stop, the distance, and any filters that were on. And I'll put these down in my notes. It's useful to have all this information because if there are reshoots or just reshoots, or you're having to match things at a later date, if you've got all that information to hand, it will be helpful, and again will save time. The camera assistants themselves tend to take all the notes. The one thing they don't take is the dedication them to do it. I tell them it's part of their learning process, so that when they become focus pullers, they'll know about distances. And then you're on to the next scene. But during the setup time for that, you can update your notes, mark up the script with the editor, go to the loo. I know I mentioned this earlier, but you should go when you get the chance. It might be 12 o'clock and you think, oh, that's okay, lunch is at 1, I'll wait till then. But before you know, the first stage back till 2 o'clock in order to complete the scene, and it's suddenly frantic and you just don't get the chance to go. Honestly, it can be a nightmare. I would also suggest, if you can, just try and take some time out for yourself over the lunch break, if you're having a lunch break, that is, even if it's just 10 minutes, just to have a bit of downtime, because it's busy. You're busy all day, It's also a good time to send any notes out if required. And then you're back after lunch and the process begins again. If a scene has been carried over from before lunch till after lunch, I would have a quick look at the cast and their costumes after lunch, because it's likely that they'll have taken part of their costume off for comfort and also, in case there are any accidents with food or drink. So, so just make sure that they come back and they're suited and booted as they should be. Assistant will be checking it as well, but it's good just to do a quick look for yourself. Hopefully you'll have had an opportunity to take continuity photos before lunch, so you can check your photo and with the cast member and costume. And then you've got another 5 hours of filming until wrap time. I always note the wrap time for the wrap report. Because 1 minute over can have consequences later in the week. I don't know if any of you have heard of grace. Grace is when the crew give the production 15 minute grace time, but their own, and it's only to finish off a shot that they started shooting prior to wrap time. So if we fit past 7, the director can't then say, oh, well, let's work till 7:15 and do another shot. Can't do that. It's just to finish that one shot. But you're only allowed grace time twice a week. So if you're, I know 1 minute doesn't sound a lot, but suddenly, you have 1 minute on the Monday, 1 minute or 2 minutes on the Tuesday, later on in the week, the first AD might have a problem getting the crew to work on, because you kind of have done yours only for a minute. So it's important that wrap report and the wrap time is accurate. If I'm in doubt, I'll check with the first AD. The wrap report should be completed, sent to the editor and to production. Then I'll finish off do my continuity notes for that day. Then I'll look at what I'm shooting the next day and pull out the script pages, and then we're on to day 2. So that's just a little snapshot of what you can expect day. So
I think it's so interesting to kind of hear how much there is to it. There's so much to do in prep. There's so much to think about. There's different processes and all the things that you're talking here about, timing the script and doing breakdowns and story orders, all those things that you have to do in prep. And then that's before you even get to filming. And then when you get to filming and just talking through that day that you've talked through there, and what you have to do from the minute you arrive and that first rehearsal moment with all, there's so many aspects to what you do. It's incredible.
Yeah. And I think that for me, that is why the prep is invaluable, because the more prepared you are, the easier your shooting day will be, because you'll have all that information to hand and you're not scrabbling about looking for things. So yeah, make the most of your prep time.
Value it the most. And
is there anything else you would like? Sorry.
I was just going to ask about the soft skills that you can. I mean, you've talked so much about how involved you are in the day, and you're kind of at the heart of the action. What kind of soft skills do you think you need as a script supervisor?
I would say the ability to listen and pay attention. The director won't necessarily tell you exclusively what they're planning to do and what the next shot's going to be and this, that, the other. You really have to, they don't want to be repeating themselves. So if after rehearsal, there is a kind of group chat and the director says, right, we'll start off with the wide, then we'll do this, then we'll do that. I'll write all that down, and then you know, I know how they're planning to shoot it. So yeah, just pay attention, listen. I would always appear cheerful, even if you're not feeling it. People will find it, that's true, people will find it easier to approach you with their concerns and questions if you've got a, you know, a cheerful demeanor. You know, if you're scowling all the time, and they'll think, oh God, let's not ask her, it's a bit too scary. So yeah, I you know, and I think things like, I don't know if this comes under soft skills, you know, stamina, you know, because it's a long, long day. You know, if you're called 8 o'clock in calendar and you live in Glasgow and you want to be there by 7, with the best will, you'll be leaving the house at 6. It means that, you know, you'll be getting up at, you know, depending how good you are getting up and how much time you need, you know, between 5 and 5:30 to leave the house at 6. So that can be from 5 o'clock in the morning. So you wrap at 7, takes you an hour to go home, that's 8. So that's 5 in the morning till 8 at night. And that's I would say that's the minimum. So you really do need to have stamina and look after yourself physically and mentally. Because yeah, it can be tiring.
Yeah. And is there, you kind of mentioned there that you do a lot of work when you're marking up scripts and things like that, and you use, you know, when you're working out your 8 to a page. Is there any particular softwares that script supervisors use at the moment?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of digital software out there now. The one I use is Script. Script was devised in the States along with an IT person. It's widely used in the UK. One of the benefits of it is, say we have got second unit, if the person, script supervising doing the second unit, has also got Script, I can email her or him the files that are required, and they've then got all the information that they require. And you know, it's once you get used to it, it's like anything else. You know, once you know your way around it, it just saves a lot of time. There's another one, Pete Scarrett. He's a New Zealander. I think he's an editor, and that's widely used in the UK. Those are the two that I know of, but I wouldn't suggest anyone buys the software just yet. It's expensive, and you should build up your confidence making notes with pencil and paper first. Absolutely, because the other thing is, you know, your battery might die in your iPad, and there's no, you know, all those that, you know, technology does to us. So you should always be prepared to use your pencil and paper on set anyway. I also, you know, I'll use an Excel spreadsheet for my page count. It adds up in 8ths, which is great. And tables, whether it's Word or I think it's Pages on a Mac. I use Google Sheets for script timings, my script timing spreadsheet. Yeah, and I would say there is an expectation now from post-production that notes will be delivered digitally. I think because everything's done so quickly now, you know, at lunchtime they want the morning's notes on wrap, you know, and you know, it's all fed through the system so quickly now that there is an expectation that we provide digital notes. It's more the norm now than it would have been, you know, 10 years ago. Yeah.
That's really interesting to hear, just about the kind of getting to grips with the basics and using pen and paper to start with, and you know,
absolutely, just to build confidence and get used to, you know, just get used to it all. Yeah.
And you mentioned earlier on that you've worked on Outlander for a number of years, and it runs its own trainee scheme. And there's a script supervisor traineeship there.
Yeah.
You've worked with a number of trainees throughout your years. What makes a trainee stand out? When someone comes onto set and they're a new person, what makes somebody stand out to you and makes a good new entrant a good trainee?
I think, well, even at interview stage, I would just say, be yourself, be honest about what you know and don't know. I had an instance where somebody told me that they had a lot of experience in doing RAP reports. And then when they were asked to do the RAP report, it turned out they didn't, and that's fine. But, I know we all want to give the best version of ourselves in our application form and at interview, but don't fib, because you'll get found out, and that's not really good for you. Give yourself the best chance you can. Honesty is always the best policy. I think on set, just listen, pay attention, don't be afraid to ask questions, but pick your moments, obviously. If we're about to go for a take and you've got a continuity question, I would find that distracting. If we're about to go for a take and you suddenly ask me something, I would wait till after the take. But yeah, ask questions, don't be afraid to ask questions. And ask questions of the other departments: costume, makeup, camera, sound, grip, lighting. Everybody likes to tell everybody else about their job too. And they'll be happy to share information with you about what to do. And remember, you're a trainee, so it's the best chance you'll get of finding out, what they do, what they require from you. And because once you start doing the job for real, then there'll be an expectation that you know all that. So yeah.
I think that's really, really good advice, to seize any moment that you can.
Yeah, absolutely.
Make the most of it and soak it all up.
Yeah.
I've seen we've had loads of questions coming through, so I just want to jump to some of these.
Oh my goodness, it's 6:45, yes.
Someone's asking, is it important to take a script supervisor course, or can you just read books and teach yourself the craft?
I would advise to do a course if at all possible. And if that's not possible, because they are few and far between, I would at least try and get some shadowing experience on a production. I'm always keen to give people opportunities. It's a bit more difficult with COVID. I think we're being a bit more relaxed about it now, and hopefully that will continue.
Mm-hmm. Yes, fingers crossed.
Yeah, I think the books are fine, but I think if you've got a bit of practical experience first, and then you go to the handbooks, the handbooks will make more sense rather than the handbook and then the practical experience. For me, I think getting practical experience, shadowing people, trying to do short films, and asking script supervisors for advice. We're happy to help, and if you pointers of if you want a short film about how to deal with certain things. But I don't think you can learn it in isolation.
Yeah, that makes sense. Someone's asking, regarding period pieces, when you're on a shoot, who is responsible if for example, an actor's wearing a watch in a scene that isn't technically correct for the period in question? Does that fall to yourself or the costume department?
That's costume.
That's a costume thing. They're responsible for making sure.
Costume department. Yeah.
You mentioned earlier that you realised script supervising was for you. Why does the job appeal to you over other roles?
Well, okay, let's talk about the other role. I would know. I'll be serious. Well, every day is a school day. I've been doing this for over 30 years, and every day I learn something new. Camera might turn up with a new piece of kit, and what does that work? Just every day's a school day. No 2 days are the same on the film set, so you never get bored. I would say you have to really enjoy working with people, and you do get to work with, you know, a very diverse group of people on a film set, who've all got, you know, their own stories to tell. And, you know, as I said, you know, I've had amazing opportunities to film, you know, abroad. I've been to some amazing, you know, houses and castles and all sorts in the UK that I would never have gone to otherwise. And I like the script side of it. Most importantly, I like hearing actors, you know, deliver their lines and give the performance. Yeah.
It's a special environment to be in, isn't it, on a production? It's quite
yeah,
atmosphere.
absolutely.
On a big production, how many script supervisors are there?
Well, in Outlander, there's one. That's me. If we've got second unit, we'll get somebody in. Yeah, I mean, that, you know, when I was interviewed for Outlander way back in 2013, the producer told me that they would either have one script supervisor for the whole thing or two script supervisors leapfrogging, and they eventually decided just to have one. I think because there was so much, you know, on those early scripts, it wasn't clear cut. There was flashback to this, there was that, another, and having two script supervisors, I think they thought that would be more difficult to keep track of everything, whereas with one person, it might be easier to keep track of it all. So yeah, you tend to just have one. There's always just one script supervisor.
And kind of leading on from that, actually, do you find the role quite solitary, or do you ever feel lonely, or do you feel like it's still a very sociable role?
It's a sociable role. Once the camera turns over, I'm focused, and you know, the slightest thing will distract me, which is annoying. But you know, yeah, it's a sociable business that we work in, and yeah, it's not solitary. It can feel like it sometimes when you're sitting there in your house at night typing away, and you think, somebody else is, I don't know, making their dinner, watching the telly, and however, that's the job, and it's fine.
Someone's asked about kind of coming in as a trainee and how long it takes to move from trainee to assistant to script supervisor.
Okay, I don't think there's a formal timeline for that, but on Outlander, we had a trainee who was with me on season 1, and then on season 2 she was given assistant script supervisor's job. I mean, she was doing a lot of the same work, but she was getting paid properly. She was getting overtime, and you know, and she was going off and doing second unit scenes, so all that was good. So I think it just depends. It depends how confident you feel about moving up.
Yeah, and what I suppose one question that I was going to ask was, does your job vary?
And what opportunities, you know, are there? I mean, I don't know, you know, apart from Outlander, I don't know any other jobs in Scotland that would take on an assistant. Mm-hmm. I think on Outlander, we've been very lucky that 2 of the people have been trainees and then went on to be assistant. I think, I don't know why other productions wouldn't have an assistant script supervisor. I suppose there's a financial, let's be honest. There's a financial thing there for but you know, from a script supervisor's point of view, any assistant is gratefully received, because everything is just, productions expect more now for less time a lot of the time, so the jobs are much busier now, and nowadays 2 cameras are the norm, so it's not, you know, you're dealing, you know, one script supervisor dealing with 2 cameras, so it's kind of double the work, but yeah,
And how does improvisation in the performance affect a script supervisor's job?
Well, it's interesting. I mean, I would hope that the actor had let us all know that they were, and it's been agreed that they will improvise. And obviously, you know, the other actors that they're acting with need to know, because it affects their performance. I would just make notes of what, you know, what has changed from this, what we've been doing previously on the scene. I would just make notes. I'd make notes for the editor to say, you know, the director agreed that the actor could improvise. You know, and sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't work.
Yeah. Somebody's asking, what's the job you've been most proud of throughout your career?
Most proud of? Oh, do you mean by that what job I liked the most?
I'll let you answer it in whatever way you'd like to take it.
I think, well, I think it was, I did a show called Garrow's Law, which was set in the London courts of, law courts in the 18th century. And I just loved, we did 3 series of that, and I just loved it because I loved the whole prosecution and defense, the whole legal argument thing. And it was a piece of social history as well. I have very fond memories of that show, and I think that was down to the scripts were fantastic, absolutely fantastic. I also loved Waterloo Road, which I did, because we had a great time in that down in Greenock. You know, the cast were lovely and the kids were lovely. And I've got a lot of fond memories of that job.
Oh, good jobs.
Yeah.
Do you have any tips for when you're doing dailies or covering someone as a script supervisor? You can't know the script perfectly, so how do you do the best job when you're doing it?
Well, hopefully the script supervisor will have given you some pointers. I mean, it may, you may just be coming in to do cutaways of this or that or the other. So that's not so hard. If you're trying to match things nowadays, it's likely you'll have an iPad on set, and you can reference the iPad to see what you're matching to. And there's always people there that will help you, always.
Brilliant. Thank you, Margaret. Well, I realise we've got 2 minutes left of our webinar tonight. So just a very brief note about the script supervisor traineeships that are open for applications just now. We are open, so if anyone's interested in applying for the traineeship, you can get an application pack by emailing vision@bectu.org.uk. We have 2 traineeships available. They're both for 6 months, and it's the opportunity to come on set and shadow script supervisors such as Margaret on a variety of different productions. So you will start at River City, where you'll get a kind of grounding and a basis of a kind of continuing drama. And then after some time in River City, you'll move around the different productions that are filming in Scotland at that time, shadow a variety of different script supervisors. And Margaret, I was actually going to ask you this, does your job vary depending on the production that you're going on to, like the size of production and things like that? Does it... important?
The fundamentals are the same. You know, all those things that went through a pre-production, but timing the script, page count, amendments, doing all your breakdowns, that doesn't change. I think smaller productions, I mean, the control room, which I'd just finished, was a smaller production compared to Outlander. And, it was refreshing in lots of ways. It was a bit more collaborative. On these huge American jobs, there's such a huge, repeating myself, huge, terrible hierarchy, and that was not the case on the control room, which is quite refreshing. Yeah.
Lovely, thank you. So for the traineeships, you'll get the opportunity to move around a variety of different productions, because Scotland's film industry is thriving at the moment. As Margaret's highlighted, she's worked on a variety of different things recently. There's big productions happening here, there's small ones, there's comedies, there's loads of things going on. So
Yeah.
the successful trainees will get the opportunity to move around all those productions, but we're keen to support anybody who's interested in this role. As we've just said, there's a boom in production in Scotland at the moment,
Yeah.
and we need script supervisors in order to facilitate those productions that are happening. So please do apply. If you don't feel that the traineeship's right for you, please still do get in touch with us. We offer one-to-ones, CV workshops, advice, signposts, training opportunities, all loads of different things like that. So please do get in touch with us, and we'll help support you in any way that we can. But I'd like to wrap up tonight by thanking Margaret so much for sharing all that insight today. It's been absolutely fascinating to hear about your role and what it involves. And just I've seen on the comments a few people have mentioned how brilliant it's been to get a run through of the day and what you do on a day-to-day basis. So thank you so much.
You're welcome. I enjoyed it, and good luck everybody, whatever you decide to do.
Absolutely. Hopefully we'll see you on traineeships or sets very soon. I'd just like to thank our funders for enabling us to do this evening, which is Screen Scotland, BBC and Scottish Union Learning as well. So thank you so much, everybody. Oh, Margaret.
And if anybody wants to contact me, I'm sure Amy would be happy to give my email address.
Yes.
If that's appropriate, if you've got any more questions.
Well, what an offer, Margaret. Thank you so much. I'm sure there's a number of people that will be taking you up on that. So yes, as I mentioned earlier on, our email address is vision@bectu.org.uk. It was also on your registration for the session today, so you should be able to find it there. So please do get in touch with us. And thanks so much again, Margaret, and have a lovely evening, everybody.
And you, everybody. Bye.